Hello everyone and welcome to Spoiler Warning featuring myself, Tom Colohue. Our headlines today are numerous. To go through them, Vince McMahon's return to Smackdown, the future of Damage Control and Bayley's position with the company, Jay White and FTR being out of reach, Brock Lesnar versus Cody Rhodes and the plans thereof, Gunther, Sheamus and Drew McIntyre still locked together, Usos versus Zayn and KO ongoing, Jeff Hardy's return to AEW, Endeavor's position on Twitch, YouTube and indeed OnlyFans, the plan or at least more details on apparent incoming budget cuts, Dana White eager to host a WWE match in UFC but UFC style, Sasha Banks wrapping up in Japan, rest and recovery for Finn Balor, and Rhea Ripley key to SmackDown and in fact WWE on both sides going forward. So yes, that is a lot to cover. And of course, as usual, there are plenty of people in the chat. I want to say hi to all of you before we get started. We will allow a couple of minutes for the people to filter in before we start diving into the news, but I use that time to answer your questions and the like. Remember to hit like as well if you please. We have 34 people already, 11 likes, so we have 42 people already and 13 likes so far. Please remember, every little does help. So we're going to start with David Leary says, do you know what Triple H's speech is about? At this point, not in full, though there will be some reiteration of the conversations that were had on Monday. He essentially is trying to reassure people that Vince McMahon is not in charge. At the same time, Vince McMahon is in charge. Carlos says, any draft updates? Not at the moment. This is a very closely guarded secret when, and in fact, if it happens. If it is going to happen, it will be relatively soon, and Triple H would be the one to announce it. As Joey says hi, Mick says hi, welcome everybody, so nice to see so many of you. Jaden as well, Turnbuckle saying, Mr. Tom Colohue, good day to you and thank you for what you do. Thank you, Carl, I appreciate that. Joey says, do you know what Vince McMahon's status is tonight? Will he be at the show? Yes, I do. That'll be our first piece of news. Aled says Triple H is probably going to say the same thing he said Monday, that's what I think. Welcome, Aled. A Base Future says, any guesses for new UFC and WWE business name? Tap Out, perhaps. That's a good idea. I do not have details on that one, and neither did they at this point in time. Brad says, hey Tom, hey Brad, hey Chris as well, hey Parrish, that's what we do here, hey Parrish, hello Michael on the Twitch side as well. Bailey's asking, hello Tom, any news on Drew McIntyre? There's a little bit of news on Drew McIntyre, yes, in our rundown at the top. Moxie says, yo Tom Colohue, hello Moxie, how you doing? Eric says, Tom, what do you think about AEW going to London? It's been a long time coming, I'm glad they've finally been able to put this one together, and I may end up attending that one after a fashion. Like with a whole group of people, it'd be fun. Steve says, it's today Good Friday, hoping for a good Friday Night Smackdown. Oof. But yes, today is indeed Good Friday. Ghost, welcome. Says, hello Tom and chat, hope everyone's doing well. Did I just hear Jeff Hardy return to AEW in that rundown? Yes, you did, Ghost. Ken saying, anything on Liv Morgan? Liv Morgan is wrestling tonight. Her tag team with Raquel Rodriguez is being given plenty of airtime in their impending challenge. That is the most they have written out for her storyline so far. Daz says, big up Tom, is Roman on tonight? Do you know? Roman has not been announced. It doesn't look like he'll be making an appearance. Yes, Jaden, there is some Mercedes news coming. Rizal says, Drew McIntyre was pulled from SmackDown according to PWInsider. Do you know what the reason for this is? More on that shortly. I do have a bit on Drew McIntyre to come. Thank you, Wiggly, for renewing your subscription on Twitch for a 21st month in a row. Thank you a 21st month and 5th month in a row. Thank you kindly for that. For anyone who is new to the channel, please do remember we are on 2,309 subscribers. If you're able to, please hit subscribe. When you start hearing the news, I'm sure you'll be convinced to do so. Horsey says, good evening, Tom. Hope you're well. Doing very well, thank you, Horsey. Dark Society says, hey, Tom, how you doing? Doing very well, thank you, Dark Society. Welcome to the show. Joey says, did Vince send Triple H out to lie to the fans again? No, he did not. Triple H was asked to address the WWE Universe, but he scripted his own announcement. He scripted it. He said what he was going to go out there and say, and then he went out there and said it. Timothy says, hey Tom. Hello Timothy. JJ says, hey Tom, do you know which superstars were supposedly upset Monday? There's videos going around and Seth looked mad and Becky looked mad in the backstage interview, also Bobby. There's a number of wrestlers who were not particularly happy, some of which will be spoken about in this particular video. To my knowledge, Seth and Becky were not two of them. Hey Noob, how you doing? CCC says, hi Tom, do you think AEW sales will go for Wembley? If not how bad will that look for AEW. I think AEW sales will be very, very good at Wembley. All else fails, they can always make Wembley a little bit smaller. I think if they get 30 to 50,000, they've done tremendously. UK fans will turn out for AEW. Leon says, hi Tom, hope you're doing well. Doing very well, thank you Leon, welcome to the show. Hector says Triple H wasn't wrong in his promo on Raw when he said it's going to be the same WWE we know and love. Vince's booking is all we know aside from Triple H's 8 months in charge. Not a bad way of saying it. Moxie says, Tom, do you see them announcing the draft today? I do not, but stranger things have happened. Alex says, I might be going to the AEW show in London too. Good news. Wiggly says, what's up, Tom? Welcome, Wiggly. Joey says, were all the NXT call-ups cancelled? All of them, not necessarily, but NXT call-ups have been cancelled, essentially going forwards again. Wiggly says, Tom must ask AEW Wembley audacious, no? Yes, and brave, and that's how AEW got started. 23 Fresh says, happy Friday. Why did Jay White sign of AEW? More on that shortly. Wiggly says, is Triple H going to announce his retirement? No. Dad says, do you think it could be about the draft tonight? Possibly. Carlos says, who is next for Roman and when? Cody. And soon, but not too soon. Joey says, were you able to get any news on why Bayley was sent home from Raw? Yes, I was. Second piece of news. 23 Fresh says, did Bobby Lashley request his release? No. Wiggly says, bit concerned by Asuka's post, is she looking for a way out of WWE now? No. She's essentially looking to take the piss out of the fans who've given up on her. And Carmelina says, are they still going on with the storyline with Sami Zayn because Jay is going against Sami Zayn? More on that shortly. Dark Society says, if Vince McMahon continues to write the shows, people are going to want Endeavour to remove him or fire him. Endeavour will not be doing so. And Venom says, hi Tom, good to see you. Welcome, Venom. Welcome. So we're going to go into our first piece of news now. If you've not yet done so, please remember to hit like. We currently have 71 viewers and only the 28 likes. And subscribe if you haven't already. If this is news you haven't heard, it may be worth sticking around for in future. Vince McMahon is running SmackDown tonight. He's already been given plentiful copies of the script and has already started making changes. I don't know necessarily whether he's in the area. I've been told, however, he is travelling to SmackDown, but I've not yet had confirmation that he is indeed there. Vince McMahon has already made changes to the script. This does include removing Drew McIntyre from the show. However, this was due to a storyline reason. Also, this is one of the reasons that we're seeing Triple H make another announcement. In this occasion, it was Vince McMahon asking him, once again, to go out and make an announcement. So Vince McMahon is running creative. Triple H has written the script out, sent it over to Vince. Vince has already made changes. However, those changes are supposedly quite minor and account for about 20 minutes of the 2-hour show in total. We are seeing a continuation of several things that were set up by Vince McMahon. For example, a tag team championship picture in the women's side. Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez will face Natalya and Shotzi on the show tonight. A large part of this, apparently, is that Vince McMahon is looking to get more women's wrestling onto SmackDown. And at the moment, the women's divisions are the key part of that. Rhea Ripley will also be making an impact. At the moment, that's all we know about Vince. But what I will say, with absolute certainty, Vince McMahon is running SmackDown tonight. I'm not going to mess you around with all the hyperbole of all the will they, won't they. Vince McMahon is running SmackDown tonight. Okay. Michael says, why does WWE act as if people don't watch Raw and SmackDown if Vince says the same thing? I'm not entirely sure on that one, to be honest. I think as much as anything, it's more for the sake of the wrestlers. I don't think there would have been this announcement if not for the massive backlash against Vince McMahon that we saw after Monday Night Raw. Venom says it's probably going to be a big disappointment, this announcement, so not getting hopes up. I get it. Perry says if there are, quotes, several people unhappy with Vince, why doesn't either Vince himself or higher-ups understand this and take more action? Seems like morale is an important thing to have. As a general rule, Vince McMahon doesn't believe that wrestlers have low morale unless wrestlers tell him they have low morale. If it comes via the dirt sheets, he simply believes that the dirt sheets are lying. Thank you very much, Steve Freeman, for renewing your subscription for a 19th month. I very much appreciate it. Welcome to the show. Razar says, I kind of have a feeling we might see Roxanne on SmackDown. Maybe I'm just hopeful. Me too. Roxanne is another one who's been told to get ready for a call-up because it's coming, so I wouldn't be too surprised to see her coming up today. Venom, I didn't watch NXT, so while I was aware of the Bron Breakker heel turn, I was a little disappointed, as he's another one who'd been told you're coming up soon. Joey says, I wonder if Ari Emanuel's regretting letting Vince have creative input. I can say with certainty he is not. 23 Fresh says, what were the main reasons for FTR to remain in AEW? More on that shortly. Si says, evening all. Welcome, Si. Venom is angry. Says, stupid old... Why can't he just realise nobody wants him there? Because Endeavour, his bosses, have told him that they desperately do want him there. Razar says, SRS was saying some wrestlers thought Vince made Triple H do the announcement on Raw to steal his chair at Gorilla, which I thought was funny. Perry says, do you think Ed will watch AEW more closely now since his favourite wrestler, Jay White, is all elite? Absolutely he will, as we are fully aware. Ed Fry's desperate to fall madly in love with the concept of a Jay White. Joey says, did Vince cancel any matches tonight, or is it staying the same? No matches have been cancelled to my knowledge, but there is a continuation of storylines created by Vince on Monday. As Leuven's quite rightly says, Vince is pushing Liv and Raquel. Yes, he is. Noob says, I believe that Asuka's post hinting at a heel turn since Bianca Belair is still a babyface. Asuka is definitely taking the piss out of the fans who are giving up on her for the past 5 years. Yep, that's exactly what I expected. Hector says, if Vince is having minimal input, I'm okay with that. Anything less than 50% of things changed. I think less than 50% wouldn't count as minimal. 20 minutes, though, of the show, 1/6 ain't too bad. Razar says, Triple H has done a terrible job booking the women. I'm glad, in my opinion, glad Vince is making a point to change that. I guess that's a positive from this. We'll see how that goes. Ultimately, in the build-up to WrestleMania, Triple H kind of forgot women's wrestling. That is a fact. Moises, how you doing, mate? It's McKay says, when is the WWE draft? There has been no confirmation that there even is a WWE draft just yet. Traffic says, good evening, Tom and chat. Thanks as always. Welcome, Traffic. How you doing, mate? Joey says, are we going to see LA Knight go back to Max Dupree? No. 23 Fresh says, do Triple H and Vince McMahon get along these days? Yes, they do. Mr. Stumble says, when does Vince start booking UFC? As soon as he takes over the company entirely, he will be in charge of both UFC and WWE. He will be able to make plans for UFC. Thank you very much, Adam. Adam Gilboa, I believe that's how you say your name, for subscribing on the YouTube side. You'll get notifications every time we go live, and thank you very much for dropping a comment saying please hit the like, he deserves it. I appreciate that. Khalid says, Tom, what do you think will Triple H say tonight? I think he'll reiterate what he said on Monday. Steve says, hello, hope you're well, dude. Doing very well, thank you, Steve. Welcome to the show. Sean says, hi Tom, how are you, chap? My chap is doing very well, thank you. Wiggly says, I mean, they're father and son-in-law, so I would hope they get along. They do. They absolutely do. Dark Society says, Roman Reigns will pass Pedro Morales' championship record, then I think he'll drop the title to Cody. Perry says, will we still see Pete Dunne? There is still a plan to see that go back to what it was. However, they are waiting for the full breakup, which may be coming sooner than you'd think. Keyshawn says, I really wouldn't be surprised if Triple H resigns from position. I would. He doesn't want to do so. Leon says, Wrestling Observer reported Vince can be splitting up Damage Control. Is that true? That's my second piece of news that is coming shortly. Andy Barr says, let's give Vince a chance. Maybe his time away, learn from his mistakes. Did you see Monday? Did you see Monday? I'm not there for that one, I tell you. I'm really not. Wiggly says, how much did Vince actually pocket from this deal? Am I right in saying that Endeavour holding 51%, they can basically show the McMahons the door at any time? They do not hold 51%. Endeavour hold 100%. WWE accounts for 51%, UFC accounts for 49%. Endeavour do not hold 51%. They hold all of the WWE. Thank you very much, Razar, for becoming a channel supporter. I very much appreciate it. You will get access to all of the members-only content that is already created and plenty of members-only content that is incoming. Michael says, do you think there'll be more of a crossover between UFC and WWE? Yes, and there is a report coming on this particular spoiler warning about a match that Dana White wants to put on with WWE wrestlers. JJ says, I wouldn't mind Becky and Lita losing Monday, only because I want Becky to go part-time and do movies and stuff. Do you see them losing? I do not. Mark, welcome, says, hey, no question, just watching and listening. Hope you all enjoy a great Tom show. Thank you kindly. Venom says, Endeavour doesn't want Triple H running things. I don't know where you've heard that. Because that is not the case. They want Vince McMahon in charge of WWE. If he wants to have creative team be helmed by Triple H, they support him in doing so. Khalid says, hopefully we see Bray Wyatt return tonight and Uncle Howdy. I find it unlikely, unfortunately. Mr. Stumble says, do you think Fire Vince chant will happen? No. Eric says, how much does Triple H have left in terms of stock? Very little. He sold off most of his late last decade. Wiggly says, with regards to his legal issues, is there anything in the pipeline for Vince? Only what's already in play. For example, there is a legal challenge to the actual merger. It's McKay says, especially because Raquel was tag team with Aaliyah and Ruby Riott. Not Ruby Riott, no, not to my knowledge. Hector says, of Endeavour not being too happy WWE has a deal with the Saudis, do you think once it expires that they'll move on? Yes, I do. 23 Fresh says, do people inside the WWE know who leaked the information to the media last summer? What information is that, 23 Fresh? Eric is worried for Dakota and Io. Wiggly says, does that mean Endeavour can shut McMahon's door at any time? Yes. Yes, they can. Sean says, we've had 2 heel turns this week, one on Raw and one on NXT. Wiggly says, legal chances of merger, what you mean it could be stopped? Yes, it won't be, but it could be. Razar says, just go to YouTube Premium for become a channel member while I'm at it. Really enjoy your content. Thank you, Razar. I appreciate that. Venom says, do you think this 6-man tag between Imperium and Brawling Brutes leads to... do you mean a match? Is that what you're going for? We've already had several matches between Sheamus and Volta. I will be talking about that shortly. Keyshawn says, do you see Stephanie making a return? Stephanie McMahon has been contacted. To my knowledge, there's very little interest. Mr. Stumble says, CM Punk versus Roman Reigns in the UFC cage, please. Nope. Traffic says, you know Dana would love nothing more than Conor versus Brock. I'd love it too, to be honest. Steve says, who would you like to see as Bianca's next challenger? I would love it to be Rhea Ripley. It's not going to be, but I'd love it. John says, when do you think the Usos will lose the titles? On Saturday, last week, when they lost them. Perry says, I dare any member of the IWC to turn a $1 million purchase into a $9.3 billion empire. Who bets the issues would be their creativity? Base Future says, do you think the buyout is a good thing on the whole personally? I think of the alternative options who could be in charge of the WWE. Endeavour's a relatively good one, so I'm pretty happy with it overall. I think Vince needs to calm down in order for it to really be a good one, though. Venom says, do you think Roman will go nuts at the Usos for losing the titles tonight? Nope. Brad says, will Cody be on SmackDown? I don't believe so, no. He'll be selling the injuries. Mr. Stumble says, do you think... Stu? I don't know who Stu is. Wiggly says, so does that mean WWE will be taken off the stock exchange? I don't believe so. No, I don't believe so. Joey says, do you think Endeavour would give Vince the boot if things got really bad? Yeah. They're his bosses. They can do that. Keyshawn says, Bron Breakker debut tonight? Don't think so, no. Mick says, do you know the final amount WWE was sold for? I do not. Leuven says, knowing Vince McMahon, and I don't know him, but I'm almost certain a Fire Vince chant will get you escorted out of the building. It will not. Steve says, Endeavour won't meddle with their property's internal production. Dana White literally said today in McAfee that Endeavour lets the UFC run everything the same way before and after acquisition. We'll see if he still believes that once Vince is in position above him. Mr. Stumble wants Dominic to slap Michael Cole. Venom says, do you think Roman defends the title before SummerSlam, and if so, against who? Maybe, Money in the Bank for example, but it would be against Cody. Venom, no, there'll be no Raw watch-along. Keyshawn says, why does Vince feel the need to be in charge of creative? Because ultimately the WWE is his baby. Razar says there was an Imperium versus Brawling Brutes match announced for SmackDown. Now that Drew is pulled, is the match scrapped or will it just be a tag match? Drew is not a member of the Brawling Brutes. He was not announced for the match. He has not been announced for anything for SmackDown. That's why it's interesting hearing the reports that he's being pulled when he hasn't been announced to be on SmackDown. Kelly says, you do a great video, Tom. My friend, keep up the great work. Thank you, appreciate it. It's McCade says, have you heard about the Give Dana Brooke a Chance? I mean, it exists. Don't know what else to say about it. Perry says, who signs in WWE first in your opinion, Andrade or Matt Cardona? Andrade. Keyshawn says, how long until Jay White is just a guy in the AEW roster? Never. That's not going to happen. Wiggly says, do you see fundamental changes with WWE? No. Oh, Stu. Yes, Mr. Stumble. Thank you. Sean says, is Sean's view reliable, Tom? He posted a breaking news video saying Bobby Lashley asked for his release. Did you hear anything about this? Bobby Lashley has not asked for his release. I don't know about Sean's view, and I've never really checked out much of his work, but I can state that Bobby Lashley has not asked for his release. Our second piece of news then is as regards Damage Control and Bayley. We currently have 95 viewers and only the 40 likes. If you're able to, please remember to hit that thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Each piece of news that I report here, hopefully, will be enough to convince someone to give us a chance and hit that button as we continue to grow. So, several weeks ago, Bayley was told that Damage Control would be splitting up. All 3 members were informed it was a Triple H decision. Essentially, it got to a point with Damage Control where he was very happy with what they'd been able to achieve, but he wanted to move on from them and move Bayley back into contention as a serious threat. A large part of this is the fact that Bayley's contract is starting to run down, and from what a lot of people are believing, the fact that Sasha Banks has left has had an impact on Bayley's enthusiasm for the company. That's what people backstage believe and what Triple H has been contending with. Now, Damage Control was supposed to be split up on Monday Night Raw. However, this has been at least formally cancelled. The idea was that after the loss on Monday Night Raw, Bayley would challenge Damage Control and we'd see a formal breakup. Vince McMahon has decided not to have that happen, at least not yet, and Bayley was essentially told, we don't need you for this match, just take a walk, take some time, we'll see what's going to happen. The idea was that Bayley was going to be moving over to SmackDown, where she could work with people such as, for example, Rhea Ripley, challenging for the SmackDown Women's Championship, could work with Charlotte, could work with top-level heels like Ronda Rousey as well. That does not seem to be the case any longer. It is a Triple H idea to split up Damage Control. Vince McMahon has essentially requested a pause on that from happening, and we are waiting for more information as we go through. To my knowledge, Bayley has not been let go. Bayley has not requested her release. But Bayley will not be in the WWE forever, and there are some concerns that if she's not pushed a little stronger, she will be choosing to walk when the time ends. Hence why they wanted to break up Damage Control and make the system a little stronger. Whether or not Damage Control break up now has its own question marks, because with Vince McMahon cancelling at least the moment that was expected, we can't say whether or not an actual breakup is going to be happening. Thank you very much, Lauren, for that donation. Says, why, Vince, why? Which I think is a very, very fair question. Why, Vince, why? So many questions. So many questions. John says, when do you think Scott Johnson will lose the Honours Championship? I have no idea who that is. Mr. Stumble says, do you think Vince's mustache is fake? No. Dust says, do you think we get Ray vs Dominic 2? And when, if yes? Yes. And Money in the Bank. I think they'll both be in it. Leuven says, I think Vince should leave the UFC booking to Dana White, but I also love to see Israel Adesanya as a WWE wrestler. Carmelina says, Tom, you're the best. Thank you, Carmelina. I appreciate that. Moises says, I saw the Sean's View video and he looks like he just comes up with fake news. Again, I am not aware of this myself. I've not checked out enough of his content. I see that he pops in here every now and then, which is nice. Leuven says, please don't say Damage Control is over. Danny B-Side is here saying, Happy Easter, Tom. Happy Easter to you too. Welcome, mate. Eric says, who do you think Rhea's first challenger? I say a debut in Roxanne Perez, a King of the Ring. What about Backlash? What about this week on Raw? On SmackDown? I think there's plenty of time yet. I think the first challenger will likely be someone like Sonya Deville, Xia Li. That's what I could see personally. So I got Rich Holland and Drew mixed up. Easy done. Thank you, Andrew Rendon, for subscribing on the YouTube side. You'll get a notification every time we go live with Spoiler Warning, our SmackDown watch parties, and plenty more. There is plenty of news that comes out on this channel, both in long-form videos and in shorts as well, that you may want to check out. Venom says, do you think Braun is having a feud with Mello before leaving NXT? Seems to be. Leuven's going, no! And Lauren's saying, WWE needs Bayley. Pardon me. 23 Fresh says, do people in the WWE know who leaked the Vince McMahon scandal information to the media? No. Lauren says, how do you feel about the Vince and Triple H situation? I feel we need more information before we can really go for it. Lauren dropping some Vinces in the chat. Leuven says, Bayley and Stardom would be awesome on a Kenny Omega level. Joey says, Worked reported that WWE is considering changing Legato's name to the LWO full time. Joey, Worked Wrestling have reported a lot. Most of it's been proven wrong. We'll give him a chance here and see what happens. Venom wants Bianca to have a match with Ronda. The day could well come. Keyshawn says, is it true that Brock and Cody Fingers booked weeks in advance? More on that later. D. Freeman says, Brandon Thurston and Alex Sherman reported that Endeavour WWE merger was reversed. Morris Trust, where Endeavour owns 51% of all WWE stock, which now Vince is controlling 49%, had to give up his Class B stock, which was a special stock that allowed him that 10 times voting power, which it no longer has. Yes, he's been given some stock options as part of the merger, but the merger hasn't been reversed. I don't know what you mean there. It does have to be the not 49% because of a legal requirement that you cannot have a merger where the group joining you gets a larger share than the group you already have. Lauren says, are you expecting any good news on tonight's SmackDown? Yeah, it should be good wrestling. Ken says, do you think with Vince in charge, Bliss will get a bigger role in the future? I don't think he'll be very happy about her going back to the character she's become. Mr. Stumble says, Bray Wyatt should join Judgment Day and be ex-Cray Bray. Hogan says, if our fantasy booking Damage Control, I keep them together and replace EO with Tegan. Freshens up the stable, gives Tegan something to do, reunites Tegan and Dakota, allows EO to be a singles act. I don't personally like the idea of Dakota and Tegan being paired back up in that manner, given their history. Thank you, Lauren, for another donation as well. Alex says, I'm expecting piped-in crowd noise tonight, especially if there are Fire Vince chants. Venom says, is Mello now a face? If so, I don't see the need to constantly have face NXT champions recently. It's good to have a heel champ. Lauren says, I heard Orton is nowhere close to a return. If you watched my video on this subject, Lauren, you would have all the details from the beginning of February. 23 Fresh says, will the 24/7 title make a return? If the USA Network ask for it, probably. Steve says, is Vince in control or is Vince's mustache in control? Much like the hell to pay from The Simpsons. JJ says, I wish people separate Bayley from Sasha. That's all people think about. When you mention Bayley, it's like she was in Sasha's shadow. She was in Sasha's shadow for most of her career. That doesn't change the fact that there are concerns. Lauren, I'm not sure what the announcement will be. I think it'll be somewhat similar to what we saw on Monday. Horsey says, do you think Bray may leave again now Vince is back under creative? Bray has already had several storylines rewritten by Vince McMahon, so I think there's certainly room for that if he wants to leave. Sean says, surprised Vince didn't want the Damage Control breakup. Didn't he say no to Damage Control at first? He did. That doesn't mean a breakup isn't coming. It just means he didn't want to see it on Monday in the way that it was scripted. Eddie says, by SRS, higher-ups want Hunter in creative as these higher-ups endeavour. This higher-up in particular is Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon wants Triple H as head of creative so he doesn't have to bother writing the scripts. Wiggly saying, forgot to say Happy Easter and Happy Passover. Perry says, I thought Damian Priest came off awesome on Raw and that his promo of Adam Pearce was good. DP made good points. Is he set for a push in singles or is he and Dom set for a tag team push? There are plans for a tag team match, but singles pushes are planned in the meantime. He'll be involved, essentially, over the course of the next year or so. Stumble says, more likely to return from back injury sooner, Ezekiel or Randy Orton? I don't know what's going on with Ezekiel. He's fit, he's firing, for some reason he's not appearing on TV. Put him in a tag team match with Elias. Put him as a tag team, you know? Joey says, you know if Bayley's unhappy with Vince going back to creative? I do not know. JJ says, I'm kind of not mad Vince is back. At least he booked Becky like the star she is and actually booked the women better. Horsey says, as bad as Raw was, I'm down for Cody versus Brock. Venom says, Tom, can you do Raw, SmackDown, NXT best to worst? I cannot. I haven't watched NXT, I've told you this. Danny says, is Vince actually showing up tonight? Or that was our first piece of news after 5 minutes. By all means, just pop back to 5 minutes into the show and it's all there. Lauren says, when's the draft? Again, not sure at this point. Silas says, Vince's mustache is a politician's trick, distraction. Same reason Boris Johnson talked about Peppa Pig when his ministers are quitting and Trump tweeted about Antifa during the insurrection. Distraction. I believe the phrase is dead catting the situation. When people are talking about the things you don't want them to talk about, throw a dead cat in the room. Because I guarantee you, everyone's going to talk about why you've just thrown a dead cat in the room instead of what they were talking about before. Razar says, I think Damage Control splitting is a good idea. You have 3 single stars that can be credible title challenges. Their talent is wasted in that group. Keyshawn says, if Damage Control break up, who turns on who? I'd assume Bayley would be the face. That was the plan, yes. Horsey says, over 100 on, please smash those likes. And yes, if I can follow up on that, we have 125 viewers right now and 46 likes. If you're able to, please drop a like. It does guarantee more viewership, more potential likes, more potential subscribers, and subscribe if you haven't already. Keyshawn said, is Gable Steveson still on the roster? Yes, he is. Lauren says, everyone wants Vince out. I gotta say, several people in this chat alone have said they're not really mad about Vince returning. Wheatley says the people who keep saying Ezekiel and Elias are the same person are nonsensical individuals. Steve says, whatever happened to Marty Scurll? Well, you don't. Google it, Steve. Google it on a incognito window so the police don't see what you're copying. Wiggly says, also Tom, will he come to AEW? Maybe. Not sure. We'll see. Here we go. We just caught up. Perry says, please say the new WWE title won't look like the current UFC titles. Again, waiting on any actual confirmation of this. Leuven says, I think Bray should go to AEW. I originally thought he would fit there and would help his stock. And AEW too, because of the spooky shenanigans. I do not believe so. They would not book him in the way he wants. Impact would. That's the best option, but he is too expensive for them. Mr. Stumble says, Tom, did you know John Cena's been physically behind you during your streams? Yeah, I check in every single one. He's usually on my left. I pointed over my right and I don't know why. Zane Charles says, you got it wrong when you said Jay White is going to WWE. Well, you may think that, but I never said Jay White is going to WWE. I said he was negotiating with WWE and AEW. My personal opinion was that he would go to WWE. I made it very clear multiple times, and you will never find a clip in which I say Jay White is going to WWE without saying my personal opinion before or after it. OG says, Vince running SmackDown. Vince is running SmackDown. Leuven says, House of Black doesn't really do enough spooky stuff for me. Well, a large part of that is because AEW don't really want to do spooky stuff, which is why Bray would not work there. Thank you, Lauren. Appreciate that. Happy Easter to everyone. Venom says, do you think Roman is on SmackDown tonight? I do not. Leuven says, any news on AEW, Tom? Yes, it'll be quite a bit, in fact. No, I don't watch WWE Rivals. Danny says, veer the weeks and weeks for his appearance. Where has he gone? I don't know, but I miss the dancing. OG, yes. Vince is not writing SmackDown. Triple H has written SmackDown, sent a copy of the script to Vince. I've been told that Vince is on his way to SmackDown, but he may be handling it remotely. Good idea, based. Venom says, do you think Roman drops the title to Cody? Yes. Razal says, face Bayley versus heel Rhea sounds like a big-time feud to me. Hope we get it. Stumble says, how do we know Little Jimmy wasn't the person who's pulling the strings behind the scenes? Little Jimmy is the anonymous GM. We've been over this for a while. Joey says, did WWE higher-up see the hashtag Fire Vince trending? Yes. They don't care, but yes. Keyshawn says, Goldberg Ole? No. Lauren says, did Charlotte take time off? Yes. Sean says, do you think Jay White wasn't interested in coming to WWE? More on that shortly. Hogan says, was the idea of pairing Gable Steveson with his brother being seriously considered? Yes. Hector says, if Endeavour in charge of WWE, is there any chance they bypass a TV deal in favour of a streaming deal? Or is the likes of Fox and NBC present offers that could be too good to pass up? The Fox and USA Network deals are too good to pass up. They are not just buying the WWE, they are buying the deals and hopefully the negotiations that go with them. The mainstream exposure will launch Endeavour into the stratosphere. Venom says, why won't WWE give us AJ Styles versus Roman? AJ Styles is injured. Lauren says, how do you feel about Riddle returning? It's okay. Noob says, what song from the weekend will you like to see as a theme song for WrestleMania 40? I don't know enough about them. Horsey says, as much as people dislike Vince, the ratings rarely change. Same with AEW. Despite stars and announcements, they struggle to hit 1 million. Ken says, my opinion on the Vince returning, he books the women better than Triple H, and to me the women are the best thing in WWE. Eddie says, Tom, did you see top wrestlers choosing to go to WWE moving forward with this deal with Endeavour? Yes, the WWE is still the golden goose. Perry says, does the egg come back tonight? I hate the idea. I hate everything about it. Probably. Lauren says, was Jay White always AEW bound? No. Keyshawn says, do you see Cody getting the WWE title and Jay getting the Universal? No. Moises says, any word on when R-Truth will return from injury? He's already cleared, they're just waiting on a storyline for him. Lauren says, any news on Edge's career after Mania? Yeah, he's still with the WWE. And Sean says, do you think AEW will sell out All In at Wembley Stadium? Yes, because they will reduce the total seat numbers until they have sold it out. Kelly says, Tom, if Bayley turns face, will she bring back the hugger? No, the WWE do not go backwards on gimmicks. James Jones says, yeah, pretty much was obvious he was going to AEW anyways. WWE don't need him. They are their own mega. Okay. Callie says, evening, Tom. Welcome, Callie. How you doing? Interesting question, Key, Sean. Ken says, will Steve Macklin win the Impact Wrestling World title? Maybe. Leuven says, what role did the quality of Raw play in it? More on Jay White later. Doing well, thank you, James. Welcome. Lauren, you should watch my video on Randy Orton. I detail all of that. Every question you've had on Randy Orton is in that video. Billy Crystal says, in your opinion, how was WrestleMania? I enjoyed it. I think overall it was very good. Little confused by the 3 final matches and the finishes there, but still very good. No, I don't think WWE is screwed. 23 Fresh says, was Mick Foley the nicest wrestler during the Attitude Era? Technically, no. Bruce Davis says, hi, Tom. Good day. Good day to you. Stumble, you want them to go back to Ezekiel. You want them to. I hope they do. HK says, hi, Tom. Do you think Judgment Day versus LWO might happen? Well, it is happening. It's literally being announced already. Next piece of news is on Jay White. And it's on FTR. So, this is for Zane as well. Hopefully you're still here on this one. The negotiations between the WWE and Jay White were going remarkably well. Remarkably well to a point that AEW simply no longer believed that he was going to be willing to sign with them, and they stopped trying. However, changes were starting to be made to the WrestleMania card, and Jay White apparently simply stopped believing the negotiations were in good faith. There were pitches for storylines, however the pitch for money was not as high as Jay White was expecting. When it came to the ideal matches that he could have, the options at AEW were also quite strong. So Jay White was looking for the big push and the big income. And from what I can tell, he simply wasn't happy with the storylines and the income being pitched to him. It was very late in the day, only a couple of days before WrestleMania, he made contact with AEW again as a free agent and made it very clear he was no longer interested in the WWE. FDR, to my knowledge, have not yet signed a new contract with AEW. However, they are historically unhappy with anything that involves Vince McMahon making booking decisions for them. They still strongly remember everything that happened. And to be entirely blunt, FDR do not trust that Vince McMahon will not be the puppet master over Triple H. Now, FDR at no point have been able to sign a WWE contract, so it may be that they decided literally on Monday to change their minds and sign a new AEW deal, but at this point in time, to my knowledge, there have been no new contracts signed by either member. I also want to briefly talk on my fourth piece of news, which is as regards Brock Lesnar and Cody Rhodes. That match is apparently set for Backlash and is likely going to be the main event. Cody Rhodes is going to be essentially heated up, and a large part of his personality will have the opportunity to come out in a feud with Brock Lesnar. Brock is going to be there week in, week out to work with Cody Rhodes into Backlash, and then we'll be taking a break after Backlash. This does confirm, by the way, and I appreciate Sean Ross Sapp confirming my report from before WrestleMania, that Brock Lesnar was not going to be leaving the company, that his contract had not expired, and that we would be seeing him immediately after WrestleMania. I appreciate Sean Ross Sapp for confirming that, even if my name did not pop up. Lauren says, best Raw after Mania. It's a difficult one. 2017. Lubin says, did FDR re-sign with AEW or are they just transitional champions? Once again, at this point in time, there are no contracts signed to my knowledge. James says, Tom, what have you got cooked up for wrestling? HCar says, have a good evening. Thank you, mate. CCC says, when's Randy coming back? Once again, CCC, check out my video on Randy Orton. You might get the answers you're looking for. Venom says, when is an AJ Styles return? To my knowledge, he's still injured, but he should be back anytime soon. Mr. Stumble says, are you sure little Jimmy didn't interfere with the chain match? That would explain so much. Bruce says, are Brock and Cody going to be fighting at SummerSlam? No. OG Crush says, was Vince lying on the morning interview? No. Lauren says, what happened to Carmella? Nothing. She just wasn't used for WrestleMania. Her says, hey, hope you're alright. Anything big going on in WWE? Yeah, now they mention it, a few things recently have been quite big about WWE. Callie says, I was really disappointed with Raw. They could have done so much better. Callie says, if Shane recovers, will WWE use him? Probably. Vince McMahon essentially has forgiven him and wants to see him involved in future. His use at WrestleMania was not the choice of Triple H. Venom says, I'm guessing only reason for Brock to turn on Cody was because Cody's going to be built up before taking down Roman. Correct. Sean says, do you think the Usos get a rematch at Backlash? More on that shortly. Ken says, when will Jay White be AEW champion? No idea. OG Chris says, any idea what those pitches for Jay White were? Yes, I've actually detailed them in quite some length in previous spoiler warnings. You might want to check them out. Nat says, PWInsider reported Vince isn't at SmackDown. Cool, so that's at least a bit of positivity, but what I will say is that Vince McMahon has already been sent the script for WWE Smackdown and has made changes. He's still running the show even if he's not there. Thank you for sourcing as well, Nats. Bruce says, I remember when it was Raw was always good and SmackDown was the one that sucked. WWE just sucks anymore. Jay says, do you even think though UFC got WWE, Ronda will be staying? I remember her saying she was taking losses, she didn't like being in the UFC anymore. No, other people said that, she didn't necessarily to my knowledge. Alex says, has Logan Paul signed a new contract with the WWE? Yes. I did mention, in my opinion, Logan Paul was definitely going to be signing a new deal and wrestling in the WWE for many moons to come. That apparently has happened. James says, Tom, all over the world this Fire Vince movement. Do you think Endeavour will listen? No. Venom says, will it be a no DQ match? No. Horsey says, they're building Cody's their title and I love it. Zane says, is Brock Lesnar a heel now? Yes, he is. It was a full and formal heel turn on Monday Night Raw. Matthew Rickard has subscribed. Thank you very much, Matthew, for subscribing. You will get a notification every time we go live, both for our spoiler warning shows on Mondays and Fridays, as well as our SmackDown watch parties and our pay-per-view watch parties. We also will have daily, well, not daily because we don't do one on Sunday. We'll be doing shorts, plentiful shorts, at least 6 a week for the daily wrestling rumors, and also plenty of in-depth videos as well, which number like 8 to 10 minutes at times, and then I'll make shorts of them. By the way, what do people think of the system I'm using at the minute? For example, I posted a video on Wednesday, cut it into 2 shorts. The shorts did really well. Some were actually watched more than the video. The video did really well because the shorts linked back to the video. I also then put those 2 on TikTok, and one of them got 9,000 plus views. So what did people think about that system? Is that what you guys are looking for? Like bite-sized news. Leuven says Jay White versus Bron Breakker is money. Oh, I disagree with the sarcasm there. James says that was the worst Raw I've seen in my 40 years. James Kemple says, what's the plan for SmackDown today? I have not been given the full leak, and I never do. So, Steve says, is Bad Bunny going to join the LWO? I've heard something about that, but nothing from what I consider a credible source. Keyshawn says, can we please push LA Knight? Hopefully we see him tonight. Leuven says, Tom, will he be going to the AEW All-In in Wembley Stadium? Maybe. James says, my friend at SmackDown tonight waiting at the arena. He says there's a lot saying fire Vince. Waiting at the arena. It starts in more than 2 hours, mate. He's a bit early. Joey says, is LA Knight's push over now with Vince running creative? LA Knight has not been pushed to my knowledge of any particular strength since the Bray Wyatt situation. Brendan's happy Cora Jade is back. Ken says, I hope WWE give Carmella a title run. It will make me happy. Bruce says, Tom, will Hogan ever do one last match? Not for the WWE. OG, when it comes to releases, I'm talking on that a little bit later. Am I talking about that a little bit later? I'm talking on that a little bit later. Venom says, please separate the tag belts. If Usos get a rematch of Backlash, I'm guessing they won't be split. Dunk Drew says they gave Logan new music. Of course, they were going to re-sign him. Bruce is asking the chat, do you all like AEW? Do you? It's a good question. Venom says, would WWE bring back pay-per-views like No Mercy and Unforgiven? If they wanted to, yes. Mark says, honest opinion time, I don't mind Vince back, but we need Triple H and Vince on the same page. With Vince sorting the women out and Triple H doing the matches and ideas. Sean says, apparently Bron Breakker is a heel now too. Cora did return and DDT Indy. Do you think she beats Indy for the belt? No. I think this is the last hurrah before she moves on. Venom says, I'm guessing Brock did it because of jealousy. Alan says, Wade Keller has now reported Vince hasn't been seen backstage at SmackDown tonight. Not as of yet, no. Traffic says, do you think we'll be seeing any heel promos done by Brock, or is he just going to be there to kick ass and take names? The latter. Leuven says, I think AEW have at least 70,000 fans in attendance. It would be a Rey Mysterio-style basement dropkick to the knee of giant that is the WWE. It depends what the WWE are also able to achieve similarly. John Eckler says, Raw needs a heavyweight men's title. The whole roster of Raw SmackDown, are they leaving for AEW? What? Okay, moving on. Callie says, any news on Bray, Tom? Not tonight, no. Oh, nice to hear, Khalid. David loves that system. Hogan says, I'm surprised they're doing Cody Brock at Backlash. I assume they would save it for Saudi. They still could. They would probably do it like twice in succession, but it seems like it's going to be the main event for Backlash. No, Max Dupree is not coming back. Although Max Dupree is still involved. Venom says, will you do spoilers on video on Wednesday like spoiler warning and Q&A? No, we will not be doing more live content than we do already. Her said, what's new for Seth? Nothing yet, but we'll see more of him soon. Autumn says, isn't there a post going around saying people will be chanting Fire Vince all night? Yes, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen. Andrew Quinn says, Cody versus Brock reminds me of Cena losing to The Rock, then getting F5, then beating Brock at Extreme Rules. I can see Cody beating Brock. Okay. Callie says, Tom, please can you give a shout out to my daughter Aaliyah? It's her birthday today. Absolutely, Callie. Happy birthday, Aaliyah. I hope you have a great day. D. Freeman says, were they teasing a women's title merge between Ripley and Bianca? Yes, they were, but they were also starting the build towards what... More on that later. I'm doing it. Razar says that are all those reports of Triple H having plans to push people done now since Vince is back? No, Triple H is still writing the scripts. James Kemple says if they are making more money under Triple H, why would they go back to Vince? They are making roughly the same amount of money. Ray says, is it true that wrestlers want to leave WWE because Vince is in charge? Yes. Joey says, I'm surprised WWE didn't do a big stadium show for Money in the Bank. They may be more brave going forwards. Bailey says, would Vince have less patience with Bray's creative delay than Triple H, or does it not matter? Vince historically has had more much more of a patience with Bray Wyatt than anyone else. And OG Crush says Vince is pretty much invincible now given his boss doesn't care. Autumn says, Tom, do you think the unification of belts is a good move? I quite like it, and hoping Rhea is next to unify. I think it's a good idea if you have a small roster, and they do not. They absolutely do not. Sai says, people are having fun with Fire Vince because it's the first time he's ever been in a position to be fired. Can't imagine Endeavour are blind to the reaction though, or the metrics if ratings drop. Steve says, could Cody be an option to win King of the Ring? Yes. Steve Engblom says, as much as I want to believe Edge is done with Finn, I feel Finn will issue one last challenge for Backlash. More on that shortly. Callie says, thanks Tom, she was shocked, and had a huge smile on her face. Oh, nice to hear. James says, if Vince and Triple H could be on the same page, it would be a good team. Leuven says, twice in succession implies that Brock beats Cody. It does, doesn't it? Oh, happy birthday for yesterday, Daz. Congratulations. Jesus. Brad says, why do you never talk about AEW? There are multiple pieces of news on AEW in this video, Brad. Stick around. Venom says, do you think WWE will... You've already asked that question, Venom. Leuven says, he literally... Yep, that's right. And Zane says, do you want Vince fired? Not really. I just want him to step out of creative and leave it be. Andy, how you doing, mate? Says, Tom, I won't lie. My head is frazzled after this, in my opinion, awful show on Monday. To then seeing the confirmed matches for tonight, another Triple H announcement, my head is spinning. Me too, mate. It absolutely flies in the face of everything we've already seen. Hopefully, they're able to sort it out and just make it work. Crush, where did you hear that? Saucy news. Perry says, any news on Nick Aldis? Nothing at this point in time. 23 Fresh says, do people want to leave AEW or Impact? There will always be some people who are not happy with their lot and want to leave. Always. James says, yeah, okay. Autumn says, do you think Backlash is an unnecessary pay-per-view? No. Dylan, welcome, says, would you prefer Roman losing to Jay or, pardon me, at SummerSlam or Cody? Probably Jay, if I'm honest. Probably Jay. Okay, next piece of news. Because we're 45 minutes in and we've barely started. So, the Gunther versus Sheamus versus Drew McIntyre Intercontinental Championship match at WrestleMania received a 5-star treatment from Dave Meltzer, and the WWE pay attention to that. As such, and in fact beforehand, recognising that the fan reception to the match was absolutely huge, Triple H decided that they wanted more of the same. We've seen plenty of Sheamus versus Gunther, but now Drew McIntyre will be more involved going forwards with the Intercontinental title picture. The original plan was Drew McIntyre versus Gunther one-on-one for the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania, but the involvement of Sheamus was done in many ways as a reward to Sheamus for the good work he's done with Gunther, a reward to Sheamus for the good work he's done with Drew and in general, and also it means that we can save a little more time before then doing Gunther versus Drew McIntyre. The WWE are eager to make this happen, but they are not going to throw everything into one basket. That is one of the reasons Drew McIntyre has not been announced for any matches tonight. They will be taking their time with this one. We are going to see Gunther and Imperium versus Sheamus and the Brawling Brutes. Drew McIntyre will not be involved as of yet in that storyline, or at least has not been announced for it. Also ongoing, the Usos versus Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. The main event planned for tonight's SmackDown is Sami Zayn versus Jey Uso. The Bloodline story is incomplete and will continue. Essentially at this point, Sami Zayn is fighting to save Jey Uso from Roman Reigns. This will also give the WWE plenty of time for other tag teams to bed in, put themselves much higher up on the scale, and provide some actual competition. The Street Profits losing, not the greatest start to that, but after all, that wasn't the original plan. While I'm on this, and before I start to go back to the chat, because everyone was asking about AEW, Jeff Hardy's been confirmed as having eye surgery recently. Tony Khan is interested in bringing Jeff Hardy back once he has recovered. He wants to bring him back, get him back involved in AEW relatively high up the card, because he wants the name value that Jeff Hardy brings as a boost to ratings. Jeff Hardy at this point has shown several indications that he is in a very strong position and is very much wanted to be involved in AEW. Matt Hardy continues to have his back to management there. Jeff Hardy is believed to be returning to AEW once he has recovered from his recent surgery. Sean says apparently Grizzled Young Vets didn't get their release then. It's interesting, Meltzer reported that they did, and apparently they did not. A schism in schism is still what I'm hearing. Autumn says Gunther is incredible. Hector says, to be fair, Tom, Endeavour is also Dana White's boss, and he was caught in plain day on camera punching his wife. His punishment was that he has to be known as the guy who beat his wife, so it's safe to say Vince and his horrid booking are safe. Yeah. Venom says they better not unify the women's titles, they need to separate, not unify. Crush, if you heard it on Twitter, you heard it from someone on Twitter. What we do here, we always make sure to source our information. That means that we can essentially decide whether or not we are willing to give it credence. I've not heard it, but if it's from someone who's high up and who's fairly trustworthy, who's proven their credentials, as it were, I'd certainly be interested. Joey says, was Bayley supposed to go babyface before the plans were changed? The plans may have necessarily been delayed rather than changed, but a babyface run was on the cards. Thomas Phipps says, hi Tom. Welcome, Thomas. Will Endeavour be taking notice of the 5-inch movement? Nope. Daniela Zito says, I've been hearing bits about Shinsuke Nakamura. Is there any updates with him? There are several reports from sources such as the Wrestling Observer and PWInsider that Shinsuke Nakamura will be returning shortly to the WWE. Not necessarily to get a run at the top, but at least returning. Leuven says, if the Gunter freeway was 5 stars, what was Charlotte versus Rhea? Not 5 stars. Ray says, will Drew leave WWE when his contract ends? That's up to him. There is plenty of time for that contract to be renewed. A year is a very long time. Dominic Perez says, hi Tom, just came on. Is Triple H going to stick around? Thank you. Dominic, I covered that in the first 5 minutes. What I want you to do, rewind to 5 minutes into the stream. All the news you're after, he's right there. No, Zane, I have nothing on Impact today. Joey says, is Vince high on Gunter too? Yes, he is, though not to the same level that Triple H is. Razar says, I'm going to be honest, I've always liked WWE, even when everyone was complaining, but this past Monday's show left me speechless on how bad it was. Like I was questioning if I still wanted to watch WWE after. You're not alone on that one. I really didn't enjoy it. Really didn't enjoy it. John, I'm not aware that there's been any indication whatsoever that Drew McIntyre wants to leave. Venom says, please tell me the tag belts are being separated before Backlash. Unfortunately, Venom, I cannot tell you that. Venom also says, do you think the Hardys will go back to WWE? No. Ken says, do you agree with Dave Meltzer match ratings? Not all the time. Sometimes, yes. Dylan says, do you think Roman has done enough in his career to be considered a Hall of Famer? Yes, absolutely. And Chris says, cool, grizzled young veterans up. Stormstop says, Finn Balor said on his Instagram that sustained a grade 2 calf tear on the March 10th episode of SmackDown. Normal recovery is 6 to 8 weeks. So you're saying he wrestled a full Hell in a Cell with a grade 2 calf tear in the middle of a 6 to 8 week recovery. Daniela says, are there any updates on Ciampa, Nakamura, AJ, Kofi, Robert Roode? Ciampa, no. Nakamura, I've already mentioned that one. AJ, been injured until at least WrestleMania. They are starting to put plans together afterwards. Kofi, still recovering, is still strapped up and not going to be used at the moment. Robert Roode is working in a coach's capacity at the moment. Autumn says, what was your favourite match from Mania? The Intercontinental Championship match. Not a surprise for me, that's what I expected. And Sean said, did you happen to see the video Alexa posted about her husband asking her to prom, which was a theme for their 1 year anniversary celebration? Yes, I did, it was very cute. Leuven says, wrestling is awesome. Funny how everyone is rooting for the guy whose sole mission is to tear a family apart and have Jay turn on his own blood cousin. Very strange. Perry says, it's the eye surgery so we can see John Cena. That would be magic, because even with the eye surgery, no one can see John Cena. Venom wants to give grizzled young vets their old gimmick. I don't necessarily believe that's something they want. C-Max says, Logan Paul versus Cena at SummerSlam. Does Cena put another person over or Paul takes another huge loss? I'm not sure anymore. I really thought this was going to be the one for Logan Paul this year at WrestleMania. Richard Robles, my mistake. Richard Robles, thank you very much for joining on the YouTube side. We are growing pretty nicely when it comes to subscribers in this particular show, and we are still going when it comes to the actual viewership. We have 165 people watching as we speak. 71 of you have hit like. If any of you have not yet hit like, please do consider hitting that thumbs up. Zane Charles says, will we ever see the yes movement in AEW? Kind of. The yes word is not trademarked, so he can do it if he wants to, but I think Daniel Bryan kind of wants to leave it behind. Adam says, is Bray Wyatt going to be released? If he has to be released and they want him to be released, yes. If not, no. Dad says, who do you see winning more matches? Either Seth in WWE or Darby in AEW. Seth long term. James says, every superstar that comes back doesn't need a title run, they got to earn it, so the titles mean something. And Danielle is saying, smash the likes up. Thank you, Danielle, I appreciate that. Quinn Nilsson, welcome, says, who do you think is going to challenge Roman? I do think there is more Cody Rhodes to come as regards Roman Reigns. Callie says, Finn's head injury looks awful. It really wasn't good, was it? Juana Roscoe says, Vince being back actually exposes some of the fans aren't really wrestling fans but Vince haters. SCW says, any news updates on Big E? He still has some checks to be done over the last few days and in the next few days. I do believe he's going to be cleared relatively soon. That's my opinion. The WWE are not currently putting any storyline together, but I do believe we are likely to see him back in the WWE sooner rather than later, even if just in a managerial position. Ghost says if Jeff comes back, he desperately needs to change his moveset and continue anything that helps with his sobriety while he's on the road, whether that's having a sponsor or attending AA meetings whenever he can. I do believe there are enough people in wrestling to have a wrestling-centric system of AA, because it's hard to be Alcoholics Anonymous when you're Jeff Hardy. Thank you, Crush. Nielsen says, what happened to Riddle? Google it. I'm not going through that. Zane says, John Cena is a playable character in a 2K PGA golf game. Sai says, I don't recall such a downturn inside 2 days. So many saying best Mania ever on Saturday, then what was that on Sunday? Then never watching it again on Monday. That's quite an achievement. Yeah, they certainly had a reaction. Gomar said, is Cody versus Brock going to happen at Backlash? Most likely, yes. Thank you, James. Appreciate that. Daniela really wanted Cody to win at WrestleMania. Zane says, will we ever get WWE versus AEW? No, because it doesn't benefit the WWE in any way. Tillman Jefferson says, is Triple H leaving? Not to my knowledge, no. Leuven says, I can admit to being both a wrestling fan and a Vince hater. Thomas says, any news on a possible DIY return? They are still waiting on Ciampa's return. They'll go afterwards there. C-Max says, Mercedes, Naomi and Bayley show up at AEW all in. I mean, Mercedes might. If Naomi and Bayley do, they'll be in the crowd. Carmelina says, what now? It's going to happen with the Usos since they lost the belts. Are they still going to be tension with Roman Reigns? Yes. Mario Lopez said, what wrestlers in WWE need a bit of a push or need more recognition in your opinion? I'm glad to see Sheamus getting the push that he's had recently. I tell you that. Beyond that, it's difficult to say specific names and specific wrestlers, but I think Dakota Kai needs more time. Hector says, I'm not sure if you know this or not, but did talks between WWE and JY actually go well, besides money and booking issues, or could there be more we could read into? Talks generally went well, but he wasn't happy with something. I did mention that there were some issues as regards his finisher. So it's funny hearing people say I said he was going to go when I was the one reporting that he was negotiating what the pitfalls were and what storylines were being pitched to him. Kind of ahead of the game on this one the entire time. Everything I've said so far has either been confirmed or will be confirmed shortly. Autumn says, do you think the UK will ever host Mania? No. Not at all. James says, Triple H is just getting started. Zane says, will we see the Hardy Boys back? Yes, in AEW. Razar says, I found it interesting there's more outrage with Vince now than when he got exposed with those allegations over the summer. Yeah, because most people don't care unless it happens to them, and a bad wrestling show happens to them. Joey says, any updates on Kairi Sane? Nope. Dylan says, I'd love for Roman to come out on the day he hits 1,000 days with a t-shirt or something that says 1,000 days to celebrate this historic occasion. I mean, it would sell. Daniela says, I forgot to ask if there's any updates on Roderick Strong. Not at this point in time. I'm struggling to get any updates with Roderick Strong. Quite a few people have asked, and I've tried to get more information, but nothing as of yet. Chris said, Blade Runner is the same as Sister Abigail. Indeed. And Venom says, do you think Sheamus takes the IC title from Volta? No. Then says, I'll try and get tickets for All In instead of Money in the Bank because Vince is back. 23 Fresh says, will Christy Hem ever return to WWE? No. And Leuven says, in your personal opinion, do you think Darby Allin is going to stay loyal to AEW for all of his prime, like Sting did for WCW? Yes. Yes, I do. We have 153 people watching. That is 80 likes, 20 more likes to reach 100. If you are one of those who've not yet done so, please consider hitting that thumbs up. We've also already gained 18 new subscribers. We are sitting at 2,327. If you've not yet hit subscribe, please consider doing so. We are live again after spoiler warning for a SmackDown watch party in 2 hours from now. In the meantime, we have plenty of news still to talk about. So, Zelina Vega recently announced on her Twitter that she's returning to Twitch. I reached out for more details on this, and what I've been told is that there is some policy pairing going on. Endeavour, above Vince McMahon, above Triple H, above anything like that, is open to the idea of wrestlers in the WWE having Twitch accounts, having YouTube accounts, and having their own outside interests because they believe it helps expand the name value. There is also a bit of policy pairing happening between what UFC fighters can achieve and can do independently and what WWE wrestlers can do and achieve independently. Well, the limit is OnlyFans style content. So Zelina Vega will not be allowed to, for example, renew her OnlyFans channel. At the same time, we will not see an immediate reaching out to, for example, Mandy Rose, but the door is a lot more open than it was. After all, when the policies are finally paired up, OnlyFans might actually fit in with the policy that's currently in place in the UFC, because there are UFC fighters or former UFC fighters who've had OnlyFans accounts. I also at this point want to talk about Dana White a little bit. Here's a fun fact that I just wanted to share. Dana White is excited by the crossover potential available by the idea of having WWE wrestlers step into a UFC ring. He is eager to host a match involving two WWE wrestlers, that being Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley. This match would not be booked. This match would be a straight up fight between the two. Bobby Lashley is said to be very, very interested in this. No comment has been achieved from anyone close to Brock Lesnar. Thank you very much, C-Mac. Very generous donation, and says thanks for a great WrestleMania weekend. We achieved a lot at this year's WrestleMania weekend. We grew at a huge rate, and also I made a little bit of money, which was absolutely lovely, and I just very made me very, very happy. Since that happened, I've used that money to buy pizza, buy Domino's cookies for the youngest, and pay for a little bit of a holiday that I've got coming up next month, in which I may have to skip a couple of Fridays. So I've got a pretty big holiday coming up, and you guys donated, watched, clicked on ads, or didn't click skip, which I always very much appreciate. And I was able to spend a bit of that money. And I just want to say a massive thank you to all of you for your generosity over WrestleMania, for your company over WrestleMania, the humour, and just for giving me a shot. Just want to say a massive thank you to all of you. John says, is The Rock versus Roman super fight happening in the future? No, there is no plans for that match to happen. There have never been any plans for that match to happen. Richard Barilla has subscribed on YouTube. Thank you very kindly, Richard. Welcome to the show. Chris says, do you think Roman holds the title until WrestleMania 40? Nope. Luke S says, how long has your channel been going on? Just came up on my recommendation. We are currently in the middle of our third year. We started in January 2021. So we've been going for a while. Welcome to the show. CS says, yo, welcome CS. Chris says, boom. James says, Darby needs to slow down before he breaks himself. Or someone else. Adam, when it comes to releases, there is a bit of information I've got coming, but I will not be naming any names in any way, shape or form. Thomas says, this is the first time in a while that the prospect of watching WWE doesn't seem fun, especially after that Monday Night Raw. That's what WWE shows are going to be like. I think today's SmackDown is going to be very telling going forwards. I'd implore everyone to give today's show a chance, but if it's as bad as Monday, maybe then it is the time to walk away. I won't be doing so because this channel really helps me in my mental health and long term, hopefully, an income. Wiggly said, I booked flights and hotel in Istanbul for 8th to 10th of June. You know why. And why is Sable never been considered for the Hall of Fame? She has been considered on a number of occasions. Steve says, can you see AEW trying to bring in talents like Will Ospreay and Nick Aldis to compete at All In? Absolutely I can. Will Ospreay, definitely, if he's fit and firing by then. Joey says, do you think with Vince back, will it affect the contracts that are coming up next year? I think it will convince some people not to bother signing a new deal. Ken, thank you for always giving the thumbs up. Jaden, not yet. We have not yet discussed Mercedes. There is a lot of news being covered, and there is still 4 more. Mercedes is the second one. John says, Vince is itching to fire all Triple H's talent, and not to my knowledge he isn't, no. Leuven says, I feel like Darby Allin would be super iffy in WWE, either a jobber or making the greatest Tommy Dreamer, Mikey Whipwreck style babyface. And he says, I didn't see Raw, I guess it sucked. Oh, it really did. Oh, it really did. Ken says, will WWE now do a Forbidden Door when they get sold? No. Venom says, do you think Roman loses the title to Cody at Money in the Bank? Because he said Cody will have a match with Roman at Money in the Bank. I said that's when I think it will happen. And yes, that's when I think the belt will go. It's also possible it goes into SummerSlam. I did not say the match is going to happen at Money in the Bank. I said I think it's going to happen. Gotta calm down, mate. Dad says, this next Saturday I'm going to watch that wrestling, Tom. I'll get some pictures and send them to you on Twitter. By all means do, Dad. I'd love to watch it. James says, you can feel a lot of things change as the show went on. Usually WWE does feed off other competitions to make them stronger. Traffic says, if it wasn't for this channel and watch-alongs, I wouldn't be watching it, to be honest. Well, that is a really big compliment to me, Traffic, and I really appreciate you saying that. Okay, John Eckler. I'm going to make this clear. You got to stop making up garbage in this chat. This is not the place for that. I know that there are plenty of other channels where you can come in, spew hate, and you'll be rewarded for it. That's not what works here. We work on accurate information. We work on fact. If all you're going to do is spew bile and make things up, this is not the place for you. Sai's keeping an eye on you for a reason. And I trust him to do what needs to be done if you continue. Zane says, will WWE or AEW Impact Wrestling sign Grado? I don't believe so, no. Daniela says, I hope the Creed brothers win the NXT tag titles off of Gallus. I also hope Ivy Nile wins the NXT women's title off of Indy Hartwell. And James says, thank you, Tom Chan. Come on, everyone. Thank you, James. I appreciate that. It's very nice. What we got? D. Freeman says, in your opinion, do you think Money in the Bank gets the Cody versus Roman rematch? I think that's a possibility. I do think they save it for SummerSlam. Sean says, if Brock versus Cody is a planned main event for Backlash, would it be better than what got reported, which was Roman defending against Cody and Seth? Who reported that? Because I don't believe it was ever a credible source. Travell Dixon, welcome to the show. Thank you very much for subscribing to the channel. We are really absolutely going places right now on YouTube. In the last hour, we've gained 1,200 views. 1,200 views. We currently have 162 people, 86 likes, only 14 away. Only 14 away from the 100 as well. Wiggly says, have you ever interviewed wrestlers? Might you be able to do some interviews with them? It depends whether or not they want to be available to be interviewed. I could certainly do something of that ilk. What I will say... Oh, Sean. What I will say as regards interviewing wrestlers, I've interviewed Triple H. I've interviewed Gunter several times, Kaylee Ray. I've interviewed William Regal. I've got all the audio for that. At some point I'll have to share it. Ultim says, do you think Cody will be the one to beat Roman? Yes. Will he be attending Money in the Bank? No. Wiggly says, do you have any info on Hikaru Shida? No. And Sean has given his source, Zero News and Wrestling Blog. Anyway. Leuven says, to be honest, Bobby has more to gain than Brock in an MMA match. If Bobby wins, he's the next big thing. If Brock loses, he loses all credibility. But Brock wins, he's just the monster that Vince makes him out to be. James says, yeah, man, you bust your gut for your community. That's hard work and dedication. Thank you, James. I appreciate that. That's it's nice to be seen in that way. Carmelina says, will we ever get Jay versus Roman again? Hopefully, yes. Adam, once again, I will not be naming anyone who may or may not be released. I also don't have that information, and no one else does either. BM is here saying, yo-yo, 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 yo-yo-yo. CCC says, Sports Entertainer uploading vid that Cody has asked for a release after Backlash. He hasn't. Venom says, when will they start doing the NXT call-ups like Zoe Stark, Indy, Bron Breakker and Cora Jade? They continually cancel call-ups. Continually. Ray says, who do you think will win Money in the Bank, men's and women's? I'm not sure at this point in time. I need to actually put something together on that. I really do. I know, Wiggly, I know. You've told me that a few times. And yeah, we don't have a website at the moment. We are working on something of that ilk. WrestleMania is a very busy time. One says, hey Tom, could Vince return to creative prevent Omega from going to WWE? To my knowledge, Kenny Omega was never that likely to go to WWE. Daniela says, I don't think Roman will be having a match at Backlash, nor do I. James says, how long have you been interviewing? I actually interviewed back from my Sports Keeda days in 2019-2020, so it was a while back. 23 Fresh says, what's the best interview you ever had? Triple H. Afterwards, I was in a phone call to my sister basically saying, I just interviewed Triple H, and I couldn't quite believe it. He is my favourite wrestler of all time. I know that's not very professional, but I was professional in the interview and it all worked out. No, Luke, I actually haven't considered a green screen. I want to get stuff. I want to get stuff behind me. I want to get actual stuff. But at the same time, a lot of people listen to this rather than watch it, which I get. I did, when I first started, a bit of physical comedy. I don't so much anymore. Because a lot of people just listen rather than watch. When we're doing a watch party, for example, I don't think I'm really where people watch, because what's the point? I'm not doing anything. Thank you, Cho. I appreciate that. Hogan says, who do we think Roman is wrestling at King of the Ring? Lashley? I don't necessarily think he is. Venom says, I want Tegan to get a push. Do you think she will? No, unfortunately not. Leon says, I'd love to see LA Knight win Money in the Bank. That'd be cool. And yes, that was me working for Sports Keeda way back in the day before moving on, because, yeah, it wasn't for me anymore. Welcome, Kenny, and welcome, Matt. Thank you very much for subscribing on the YouTube side. You'll get notifications every time we go live for both our spoiler warning Monday and Friday news shows, and of course also our Smackdown and pay-per-view watch parties. Venom says, Corso got to let everyone down by not having Roman and Brock wrestle on Raw. Too good to be true. Why Roman and Brock wrestle on Raw? Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying. Billy says, how is Triple H in person? Very magnanimous and says very little. Bruce says, what's the next pay-per-view? Backlash. Thank you, James. Actually, I don't think I would have learned how to stream if not for Sportskeeda telling me we need you to start doing a stream on Mondays when I wasn't ready for it. Michael says, Vince McMahon is not at SmackDown tonight in Portland, Oregon, and only reviewed tonight's rundown remotely with only minor changes made to the original skip for tonight, but nothing major via PWInsider. That is essentially what I've already said on that one. He was sent the script and made roughly 20 minutes of changes to the total show. No, Boomy, nothing on LA Knight at this point in time. Daniela says, any updates on the Hurt business potentially reuniting under MVP? At this point, it seems like that's been cancelled or at least pushed back. Venom says, does Brock refuse to fight Matt Riddle? Yes. And Joey says, why did Vince get rid of the Shotzi tank? I don't believe Vince did. I believe they tried to take it down the ramp and it wasn't considered safe. Autumn says, if you think Cody vs. Roman will be safe for SummerSlam, do you think Cody could potentially win Money in the Bank? Yes, I do. Wiggly says, I might actually be hosting an event with a well-known superstar. Not sure if I can advertise in the Discord. Yeah, there's a promotion section, mate. There's a promotion section. Jump in. Absolutely. News. There are reports via Brian Alvarez of budget cuts coming to the WWE. I have been able to confirm that there are currently discussions ongoing about budget cuts for the WWE before they are able to finalise the sale in the early to mid-summer time. Now, we are not there yet. However, there are currently people high up in Endeavour who are working with Nick Khan directly to work out exactly where the money is going, who the money is being spent on, and where they could potentially save money. This could potentially mean wrestlers being cut. A cost-benefit analysis is being put together by someone higher up than Nick Khan, who will then make decisions as regards how much money needs to be saved. That will then be passed to Nick Khan and Triple H to make it happen. Budget cuts are incoming. The decision may be made, for example, to cut Pyro rather than wrestlers, but that doesn't save anywhere near as much as they may be looking for. Mercedes Money is currently wrapping up in Japan. She'll be wrestling tomorrow, or at least, well, as it is now, less than 12 hours from now. She will be wrestling in Japan, and that will be her last date there. She will still be carrying the championship with her, and she is currently looking for matches in the US. AEW have already sent out feelers, and she is believed to be interested in wrestling people in their company. Jade Cargill has been mentioned as a potential opponent. Britt Baker has been mentioned as a potential opponent. To my knowledge, Mercedes wants to wrestle Thunder Rosa as well. So there's a few names that have been mentioned who are currently working under the AEW flag that Mercedes is very interested in working with. I have been told that rest and recovery is the order of the day for Finn Balor due to injuries that he has. He is taking some time off. Judgment Day, however, are already key to SmackDown. They will be a force to be reckoned with on SmackDown, and a large part of that is going to be Rhea Ripley. Now, Rhea Ripley is going to be key and vital to SmackDown going forwards. Tonight is essentially the launch of Rhea Ripley's domination of the SmackDown women's division, and the entire division is going to be built around her. The idea for Raw, when she stepped up to Bianca Belair, is to build towards a WrestleMania-worthy match between Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley. At the moment, there's a number of different ideas being bandied around, but the strongest idea seems to be Rhea Ripley in the main event of Night 1 of WrestleMania 40, defending the SmackDown Women's Championship against Bianca Belair. That is the news. That is the news. Okay, there are still plenty of comments coming in, so I'm going to try and get through them before we wrap up. Please do remember, we are 4 likes away, just 4 likes away from reaching 100 likes. Pardon me. Every like, every comment, every subscribe, every single one has a huge effect on the growth of this channel. Essentially, when you hit like, when you leave a comment, you are telling YouTube that this is a show worth watching. And when you tell that to YouTube, YouTube tells other people that this is a show worth watching. And before you know it, we are going through with a peak of 165 viewers during a show. We have got those 4 likes and then some. We have 103 likes. Thank you, everybody, for your generosity. Of course, the whole idea for the growth of the channel is that eventually, hopefully, one day, I can do this full time. I could then devote much more time to interviewing wrestlers, talking to wrestlers, trying to help this grow, trying to then do raids on other channels and help them grow, trying whatever I can in order to really further this community and really help it to develop. So if you can, please remember, hit like, subscribe if you haven't, and chat away if you can. Thank you very much, Jay Swiss, for subscribing on the YouTube channel as well. Thank you very much, all of you, for really helping this channel grow. Autumn says, smaller roster and unification of belts equals better promotion in my opinion. Sean says, do you think Alexa will ever be let go? Not necessarily. I'm not going to name anyone I think is going to be let go. Michael says, Mercedes versus Thunder Rosa was a dream match of mine. Bailey believes Alexa is highly underrated. Autumn's is excited for the Rhea push. Sean says, just 4 likes. Well, we ended up with, oh, bloody hell. We ended up getting 11. And Autumn says, this is my first time tuning into your stream and I've loved it so far. Hope it becomes a full-time thing for you. We'll subscribe to your YouTube. Thank you, Autumns. There's plenty of news there you may be interested in. And of course, as Autumns, you're watching on Twitch, be sure to hit follow on Twitch as well. We still do both YouTube and Twitch, so please do make sure to check that out. Right, what else have we got to cover? Venom says, if they said you're having a match with Riddle, as regards Brock, can he just say no? He can, yes, Brock can turn down anyone. James says, Triple H is a workaholic type, Mick Foley's a nice one. I met the Hardy Boys, they seem to don't care, also burnt out. I live down the road from the Hebners, grew up with Mickey James, met a lot of them. Oh, that's nice. That's very interesting. Hogan says the only reason I say King of the Ring is because Roman has defended at each of the last 3 Saudi shows. Then again, they'd probably also want him at Money in the Bank and SummerSlam. He may well be involved in all of them. That may well be a thing that happens. It is Roman after all. Bruce says SmackDown's in my city tonight. Hope you're going, mate. Or if not, hope the town is bouncing. Adam says, what happened to your Alexa Bliss and Randy Orton news? Were they inaccurate? Adam, where are you coming from with this? What news are you talking about? I said that Alexa Bliss would not be at WrestleMania. She wasn't. I said that Randy Orton would not be cleared in time for WrestleMania, and it was a very outside shot that he would be there, which is exactly what happened. I don't know what you're referring to, but thank you for giving me the opportunity to report the wrestling news that I've accurately reported. My video from the beginning of February on Randy Orton is still being proven accurate by so many different sources. Every single thing that happens with Randy Orton proves that video accurate. Luke says, you're a recommendation. I'm enjoying the content. Just if you had something going on behind you, it would grab the passing viewer. I do understand that, Luke, and I think you're absolutely right. I am trying to think of ideas and things. Sai's created this overlay for us. Thank you, Sai, as always. And we've got a few, like for SmackDown later on, we have another overlay, for example. And usually that's something that we work with to try and keep things interesting. We have quite a few diverse overlays as well. But I'm certainly thinking about how to do things behind. So I appreciate that. Daniela says apparently MVP is waiting for Lashley to decide to join the Hurt business. What's your source on that one, Daniela? Leuven says, I'd like to see Stardom wrestler Syuri Kondo in WWE since she's a former UFC fighter. Now that they're under the same umbrella, I think Asuka would be the best opponent. Venom says, do you reckon when she drops the title she'll go back to WWE? No, I don't. Zane says, about Impact will be happy to sign the WWE released wrestlers. I'd imagine a lot of people would be if any wrestlers are released because you're going to get talent. Daniela says, I really hate when they cut wrestlers off the roster. How do you feel about it? Not great. Not great at all. Like, just if you don't have room for them, don't hire them. Sean says, you were right, Tom. Alexa wasn't on the card for WrestleMania, but she was at the show watching. She was watching it with Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Michael says, Mercedes telling AZM to spell her name correctly was hilarious. And Autumn says, do you think Bianca will lose the Raw Championship before she faces Rhea at Mania 40? That is what I think will happen, yes. Luma says, Mercedes in AEW, I might cry. Steve's saying, you're saying Mercedes retains at Sakura Genesis. Yes, I believe she will. I'll be watching that tomorrow, so we'll find out there. James says, Mercedes, a Japan exec, not letting her slip away. She will likely return at some point soon, but for now she's wrapping up. Joey says, I feel sorry for Triple H. Everyone he brought back will most likely get cut again. There's no reason to say that. I don't believe that's necessarily the case. Those who were brought back on smaller contracts than a lot of wrestlers who are currently with the company, haven't gone anywhere, and are not currently being used. Thank you, Jedi Monk 23, for following on the Twitch side. Awesome as well, appreciate that. Okay, I'm still catching up. There's still quite a lot being said. Venom says, who do you think Bianca loses to when she drops it? I'm not sure. I don't think it's going to be soon, but I think Asuka's still in contention. Bruce says, that'd be a great match for title versus title. Venom, the next Raw watch along will likely be after SummerSlam. Bruce says, I hit the like button already, and I'll put MSG after the show. Thank you, Bruce. I really appreciate that. A comment after the show does make a big difference to the growth as well, and that's very nice. Thank you. Ashley, thank you. Matt saying, thank you very much, guys. I appreciate that. Alex says, if you go into the AEW show, will you do some sort of meetup? Yes, I will. Tillman says, will Naomi ever come back to WWE? Bridges have not been burned. If Naomi wants to come back, she will be welcome to. I do believe she is more likely to than Mercedes. Dominic says, is Vince supportive of Dominic and Judgment Day? Yes, he is. He's very happy with what's happened so far. Also, contractually, he has to push Dominic. James Kemple says that match needs to be champ versus champ. Loser relinquishes their title. Gomar says, I'm glad I found your channel, Tom. It's a great show. I always enjoy coming here and chatting. Thank you, Gomar. I appreciate that. Leuven says, plus Kenny Omega defends New Japan belts on AEW all the time. Mercedes will probably do the same. Jason says, do you think Mercedes would end Jade's streak? Yes. Yes, I do. If those two actually cross swords, as it were, I think Mercedes will be winning. Bruce Bernal says, will Charlotte Flair get another title shot at Backlash? I don't believe so, no. Joey says, who do you think is Austin Theory's next opponent? I believe we're going to get a bit of an open challenge on that one, so we're going to see quite a few different things. True Hellfire says, any news on Bray Wyatt or did I miss it? Today there was unfortunately no news on Bray Wyatt. I've reported news previously, particularly as regards Vince McMahon rewriting the plans going into WrestleMania for Bray Wyatt, and Bray Wyatt essentially scripting his own thing. If this is an area that you are interested in, if you're interested in Bray Wyatt news, I am the only person who reported that Bray Wyatt had signed a new contract with the WWE before he returned at Extreme Rules. I reported that in a live show a month before he returned. James says, Mickey and I are best friends, went to school together, I have free tickets to all our shows, but they're in Tennessee most of the time. Interesting. And Bruce says, Tom, great YouTuber. Thank you, Bruce. Bruce Bernal says, will Austin Theory get a title shot? And now that Vince is back and picked him as his favourite. Nope, he'll get exactly what he was getting. Joey said that they're giving Austin Theory a legend killer run with the US title, having him take out all the legends. I don't know, but I'd love that if they did. Venom says, update on AOP. There is no update on AOP. I reported previously that Triple H was interested, reached out to AOP. I predict that they will be back, but ultimately all I've got at this point is the prediction that they will be back. James says, it'd do better if he just put himself in their shoes. This business never makes sense. Her says, can you confirm what really happened with Naomi? I read about it but couldn't figure out which party is making excuses. What really happened is that she and Mercedes Moné decided to walk out of the WWE because they weren't getting pushed. They didn't believe that people who deserved to be pushed were getting pushed, and they wanted the tag titles to be pushed, and the tag titles were not being pushed. Luvin says, Sakura Genesis is at 4 a.m. Eastern Time in the US. I believe around 9 or 10 a.m. for you. 9 a.m. is kickoff for me. Leon says, any updates on when Eric Young will be returning to WWE? Unfortunately, you got me. I'm not sure. James says, never got to meet Hogan or Andre or Piper. Had dates, all sort of other stuff going on. 23 Fresh says, can AEW continue to sign wrestlers with their budget? Yes. James says, I met a lot of people through Mickey. Bruce says, okay. 456 says, hello Tom, hello chat. Hello Casino, how you doing? Venom says, why won't Roman go for the NXT title? Because he doesn't want it. Tillman says, why did Brock Lesnar attack Cody Rhodes? Because he was booked to do so. Venom says, NXT returns don't feel that special as the crowd goes nuts for anyone and everyone. Sai says, also, love to Lauren and hope she's back with us soon. This is, of course, our mod and friend Lauren Goodnight, who just underwent a bit of surgery. Hopefully we'll be seeing her soon, and hopefully she's doing well. Dylan says, I think next year's WrestleMania could be Roman's last. I wouldn't necessarily go that far. Horsey says, thanks, Tom. Catch you on the watch-along. Catch you there, Horsey. Glad to see you, mate. Thank you, Avidol, for joining and subscribing on the YouTube side. Very much appreciate it. Thank you kindly. Wiggly says, just to say I love this channel. It kept me sane during some recent tough times after my folks passed unexpectedly. So yeah, you're okay, Tom. Thank you, Wiggly. I hope you're okay. I didn't really check in as much as I should have. Hope you're okay, mate. Autumn says, does AEW treat their wrestlers better overall than WWE? Debatable point. Different wrestlers get treated differently. Leuven says, I think AEW can sign anyone WWE can sign. Tony Khan is also a billionaire, don't forget that. At the moment, given that there is cost-benefit analysis going on, AEW can sign people for more money than the WWE can. Jaden says, Tom, do you support their walkout? I don't know the full story, so I'm simply not going to get into that. And Venom says, do you think the Usos will try and get the NXT tag titles? No, because once again, as with the Bloodline, it's beneath them. Louise says, hi, I'm new, and I'm sad that Cody lost. Me too, Louise. Me too. Welcome to the show. I'm going to wrap up there because we have gone 24 minutes over our usual amount. We did have a lot of news to cover. For anyone who wasn't able to catch all of the show, by all means click rewind, because we had news on Vince controlling SmackDown, Damage Control and the Bayley situation, Jay White and FTR, the plans for Brock Lesnar versus Cody Rhodes, Gunter, Sheamus and Drew McIntyre's future, the Usos versus Sami Zayn and KO continuing, Jeff Hardy's AEW return, Endeavour being open to return to Twitch and YouTube content but not OnlyFans, budget cuts incoming, Dana White eager to host a UFC match between two WWE wrestlers, Sasha Banks wrapping up in Japan, a rest and recovery for Finn, and Rhea Ripley being key to the women's division going forwards. My voice is starting to be absolutely wrecked. No Venom, there won't be a Tuesday spoiler warning. Spoiler warning is Mondays and Fridays. I am going to wrap there because my voice is dying on me, and I have a full watch party to do in an hour and a half. So, to everyone here, thank you so much for hitting like, for chatting, for asking questions, and for subscribing, even just for being company. I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. I've been Tom Colohue. You have been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.